Hey everybody, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are out there. It's time for another episode of our SoundTraxx Soundbites podcast. This is Train Talk from Milepost 141. And as always, I'm George, this is Graham, and we're going to talk a little bit about trains. I know it seems like a stretch, right? It's actually been a pretty busy start to 2025. I know we've been doing really well. We're seeing a lot more people realizing the benefits of using Blue Nami and things like that. So we're starting to see a lot more of that coming around. As far as getting time to come over here to do these things, it's been tough to find time. I know you've been busy too.
Yeah, lots of people helping out, doing lots of phone calls, lots of emails, getting everyone all sorted out, making sure everything's all running smooth for everyone.
Yeah. And the good news is most of it's just interrogation on questions on like how to set up their decoders. They're not damaging them.
Yes. Yeah, I definitely think lately, it's been more, hey, I need help programming this versus, hey, I damaged the decoder. So
right.
That's good.
That is good. And I really like that because what it does is it helps us show that people are experimenting more with the features of the decoder because there's so much built into our decoders, both Tsunami2 and Blue Nami, and even the Econami. The Econami, we keep kind of forgetting about it, but the Econami is a great budget sound system and it's actually comparable to a lot of the competitors' high-end stuff. As opposed to having to have all the, pun intended, bells and whistles. But the Econami is a great decoder, so it's nothing to shake a stick at. It's just limited in some features and some sound files.
I would say, like people I get talking about, they like the Econami, especially if it has the right sound option for them.
Yep. So nothing. So guys, if you're not sure or haven't tried it out, take a look and see what we offer. But there's a lot of great stuff, a lot of great products. So today we're going to talk a little bit about our projects. I've got some stuff here that I'll talk about in just a moment, but that's a different thing.
Yeah, it's not Alaska.
I know. Well, go ahead and share the history on that thing and what you're working on.
So this is what was called a True Line Trains. They were kind of a niche manufacturer. They only made like a couple of rolling stock, couple of locomotives when they existed. And so I think now actually Atlas has this tooling. So it's for a MP36 locomotive. Mm-hmm. And so Atlas actually hasn't done the Railrunner yet again. Hopefully they will someday. So I can get another one maybe, because why not have another one? So this
Are you listening, guys? Atlas, you hearing this?
take notes. And so this is one, I got it as a gift actually, and then it was straight DC only. So they offered DC, and then they did do a sound version, but with another brand of decoder. So it's fine with the DC, and actually we have a Tsunami PNP8, Tsunami2 installed in there. Haven't upgraded it to Blue Nami yet, but it's a candidate for the future. I didn't actually do the install. Another friend did the install for me, but it was before I was comfortable doing it. But I wasn't always exactly happy with how all the lights were set up. Mm-hmm. And then after I started here, I started learning much more about identifying the lighting outputs, getting them all set up correctly. So I finally have gone through and set up all the lights on this model. And I actually went in and modified the stock PCB where all the LEDs are housed. The ditch lights are both wired together, stock from the factory. So on these commuter locomotives, when the horn's blown, the ditch lights alternate. They flash back and forth. So I said, that's not good enough. So I tore it all apart, got to that lighting PCB, isolated the left ditch light, added another resistor, and got it on its own function output. So then I could get all those.
Now, when you're doing that, you're cutting the trace on the actual circuit board and then scraping away some of that epoxy so that you can access the separate trace, right?
Yep.
Okay. Just want to make sure that for anybody who's entertaining the idea of tackling one of these, that we talk about the details of what you're doing to it.
Yeah.
Stuff like that isn't necessarily intuitive to a lot of people on how to do that.
What I ended up doing, I got like a 9-volt battery with a resistor, and then I just started probing the PCB so I could see which LEDs lit up and how they were exactly wired. because you can't always get the wiring information, especially for some older models. You kind of have to poke and probe and see how they actually did it. So it's a pretty cool engine. It's got a nice paint scheme. I might weather it someday and do some more detailing, like adding the red rear handrails. They didn't do that, but very nice, runs very smooth. And it has a lot of lights.
Are you talking about the end platform?
Yeah,
these are
the end platform.
The end platform is supposed to be red. Okay.
Yeah. So just some minor things that might update it a little bit. But it was really fun to do all the lights, because I know George likes all the lights. So finally figuring out all these lights on this model was a huge project. I would sit down for like an hour, figure out some of them, get them all working, and then I'd come back, do some more. I'd probably spend over 3 or 4 hours programming all the lights on this, just trying to figure it out. It's got the headlights, each ditch lights. It's got the red reverse lights. It has a cab interior light, and then it also has a separate number board light. So quite a few lights, all the lights that we would kind of expect. So we can see there's the headlight.
Okay.
You got the cab light. Might be a little hard to see with the lights, but we'll shoot some B-roll.
We'll have some B-roll laid in over this for those of you watching on the video.
We got the ditch lights and the number board all lit up as well.
Okay.
So a lot of cool lights. And then I know you don't care much for directional lighting, but in the commuter world, operating in a push-pull fashion, I would kind of wanted to easily be able to switch between the push or pull operation.
Sure.
And so I actually used our function flex mapping to go in and kind of cheat a little bit. The red reverse lights, which we haven't seen yet, and the ditch lights are actually both on button 5. So, and then they're directional. So depending on which direction, I can have them on or off. And then if we go in reverse, I can get those red lights as well.
And your headlight extinguishes as well.
Yep, got that headlight coming out. And then my number board can be on in either direction, because I've seen pictures with the number board on when they're running in reverse and sometimes off.
Okay.
So I have that flexibility. I've got the number board just mapped to button 6, and then the red lights, they can come on and off with button 5. And then the ditch lights are also just on button 5, just kind of make the operation simpler. And then I threw the cab light on button 4. So that's quick and easy, so I can turn that on and off.
Okay. So you're just using the single button. So this is where you're utilizing the flex map function mapping to move things around.
Yep.
So put the lights assigned to whatever button that you choose.
Yeah. And I kind of, on a lot of my models, I kind of try to set them all up the same, as I know you do. Just so I don't ever have to open up the book, remember, what button does this on this engine? And that's an awesome thing that you can do. You can make all your engines function the same way.
Yeah. I always preach consistency, because then you know what you're going to get each time you grab the locomotive. So anything in your roster is going to be wired and done exactly the same way to set up. So you don't have to relearn every locomotive, just like you said. It's kind of a cool thing to do. And that's where, a lot of people, I think, over the years are kind of afraid of changing CVs and adjusting the decoder's performance, because they're afraid they're going to break something. Well, the good news is with our decoders, you can't break a decoder by changing CV values. If you could, and we left something in there that you could accidentally select that would break the decoder, we didn't do our job very well. So if you're trying to select, like, say, for example, an air horn where we have 44 air horns chosen, and you try to accidentally pick air horn 50, the decoder isn't going to brick looking for data that doesn't exist. It's going to say, that's outside the range, and then default back to 0, because it knows that's not in the range of the sound. So when you guys are setting up your lights and doing all your things like that, don't be afraid to experiment. Try things out. You can always reset the decoder if it doesn't do what you want it to do.
Yeah, I won't lie. This was a lot of experimenting, trying to get this all right and operating how I wanted it to. And there were some factory resets involved.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, this was one of your first ones that you started tackling on your own after you started.
Yeah.
And so now that you had a little bit of that knowledge under your belt, we kind of use that as a learning tool as well.
Yeah, especially doing that ditch light, getting that all figured out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But now, how long does it take you to set up a model like this?
Maybe 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Instead of the hours.
Right. So my point of bringing that up is, again, don't hesitate to experiment and try things out with these models, because there's so many features built into it. You may find something that's the coolest thing ever that you didn't know about. We do have a user's guide that helps explain how all this is set up, so that way you can get the most out of it. So he's getting exactly out of the model what he wants.
Yeah.
And he's doing it that way. So all the lights, including FX3, 4, 5, 6, can be directional, just like he's got here. You can set anything else to turn on automatically. So if you wanted the number boards, for example, to turn on automatically, you can certainly do that with track power.
Yeah, and I had set it up for a while to just have the cab light come on when it was stopped. Kind of like the engineer's checking his paperwork or something like that. But I was actually talking to one of our great customers, and he was saying he's a real engineer, and not every time when they stop, they would not be turning on the cab light.
Right.
So then I just decided, okay, I'll just have it where I can turn it on and off when I want to.
Yeah. So again, personal preference, and that's what's so great about these decoders is it allows you to make it work the way you want to. Now, what prime mover would be inside this MP36?
It's a 645F. So this is 16 cylinder. So it's using our EMD2 sound profile. And then I forgot to mention it earlier, but it does also have dual SoundTraxx sugar cubes in there as well, our mini cube speakers.
Okay.
So yeah.
What air horn would be on that?
Right now I've got a K3LA on there. It's pretty close to it.
Where is it?
Am I missing it? Maybe.
I've just noticed. I'm not noticing an air horn.
I think it's down below. It
might be.
Maybe on that other side.
Okay. Well, I figured you might have known already. Because I know, like, for example, the F59 PHIs that they used as well, there's a manifold or something that kind of goes up and over on the top of the locomotive, and the air horn kind of tucks underneath that a little bit. So I didn't know if maybe there was something there in regard. But, yeah, you're right. I'm not seeing anything there on this side.
Maybe it's missing.
We'll find it and put some B-roll in here.
Yeah. Oh, well.
But, I don't know much about the MP36 because that's, basically came in as like a commuter engine in an effort to try to supplant EMD with their F40 PHs and the F59 PHI, which apparently I guess wasn't as popular as the F40 PH.
Yeah.
And so just trying to do all of that. And then Amtrak came out with the P42s and the P40s and so forth.
Now EMD isn't even making any passenger locomotives really.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Well,
so just sharp looking little engine.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say little engine.
Yours are littler than mine.
That's true.
Let's take it for a little spin.
Yeah, we'll move these guys out of the way here a little bit, and we'll take it for a run. You got the E-bell. Now you got your alternating ditch lights.
Turn off the cab light.
And you do have the air dryer on it.
Yep.
It's a smooth running engine, nice and quiet.
Yeah, for as old as it is.
Yeah.
This is probably over 10 years old. So.
Yeah, I was just saying, the MP36 came out a while back with True Line. It was one of those models I never really saw much of. Yeah. I think they did that and maybe one other model, and then they kind of went out of the business or something.
Well, the whole reason this I have had it with the decoder installed for a few years, but Rapido just finally came out with the new bi-level commuter passenger cars.
Oh, right.
So then I had to get those.
Yeah, so you have to run something with it.
Yeah, have to have the nice engine with the nice car. So then I was finally like, oh, I really want to get all these lights and everything dialed in on this engine, so it was ready when I got the cars to operate with it. So
that works.
Yeah.
And the New Mexico Railrunner actually has kind of a cool thing because they have the Roadrunner on the side, and then the trailing of that red and yellow kind of feathers into, or are feathers that kind of trail into the cars too. So it kind of creates a cool.
I think it's probably one of the most iconic commuter passenger schemes, and really like symbolizes the state.
Yeah, so, I think so. I always liked those bi-level cars. There was the Trinity Rail Express in the Dallas-Fort Worth area where I grew up. And they were running those back and forth. And those are, I would say, also as iconic for the state because the whole side of the car is this Texas state.
Yeah. Another awesome one.
So those are really cool. So nice. I like that model. So you did a good job on it. So we'll move this over and we'll talk about these guys here. Now, some of you guys may not be shocked at all that I've got a pair of Jeep15s sitting here in front of me. The Jeep15s, a.k.a. the urban tunnel motors, baby tunnel motors, whatever you want to call them, they tend to be one of my favorite locomotives to run. So I've got 2 of the brand new Athearn release.
Yeah, you just got them in, what, yesterday? Or
Yeah.
over the weekend they came in the mail?
Yeah, they came in over the mail over the weekend from my pusher. And but anyway, I got them, and I haven't done anything to them, and there's a reason that I haven't. But when I ordered these, they were announced as having new lighting effects. So they've got number boards and class lights on the front, and I was like, wow, you mean I don't have to do that anymore? So it was actually really cool. I'm really excited about it. And at the time they announced these, we hadn't even finished up on the Tsunami project, and so I ordered them with Tsunami2s, and they are fully equipped right now with Tsunami2s. So they will get Tsunami, because
Of course.
I have to have Tsunami. I can't run Tsunami2 anymore. I don't even want to run with this. But right now they're muted, and so do you have them on recall? How do you? No, you didn't. Just select 3 and then unmute. So these locomotives here, they've actually got a full set of lights. So they've got the number boards on both ends, and the nose class lights are clear on both ends. And they're both actually just sitting in address 3. So if I try to run them, they're going to pull each other. So they're not going to go anywhere. But they do have that Tsunami2 sound. So they do have a great sound to them. And I'm really excited about these. So I'm going to get working on them here pretty quick. But I'm going to have to do a couple of things to them. I'm going to have to put the crew figures in the cab, and then I will add the truck and ground lights to it.
Yeah.
But that's about the extent of it. I mean, really out of the box.
And swap out the couplers.
Oh yeah, I got to swap out the couplers. Everything gets KDs.
Yeah. For sure.
These will be the KD scale heads, so 158s I think they are is what I normally put on them. And then of course I got to add my magnetic MU jumper cables and the air hoses. That just adds a little extra creative. I mean, it just looks really cool under those locomotives. So. But anyway, so I'm actually really excited. These things finally come in. These are 2. I've got 4 total on order. So they did 3 of the Mopac, and I did order 1 out of another one that I'll show you guys at another time. So really happy, really excited, and can't wait to get working on these. But I've got to get a couple other projects off my workbench. I've got a GP38 that's over there and another GP15 from the original run. That you guys haven't seen yet, that I've got to finish up and get working on it. So got a lot of work.
Yeah. Always good to have more projects.
It is. So one of the reasons I wanted to bring these out, not only to show you and promote our partners at Athearn that they're making these models so much better now with all the added lights and everything, but I wanted to talk a little bit about factory installed decoders. What's the difference between a factory installed decoder versus an aftermarket installation? Because this is something we get all the time. There's a lot of people out there who may think that a factory installed decoder is, for lack of a better term, a dumbed down or limited features, and it really isn't. It's a full feature decoder. It has all the, pun intended, bells and whistles that the aftermarket decoder has.
Yep.
Now, the caveat to that is one of the things with these models is they will have specific sound files loaded. So in other words, where you have the EMD2, which has 567, 645, and 710s, when our partners at Athearn or whoever is building a decoder, we typically will preload that decoder only with the sound files that are relevant. So in this case, these are 645 non-turbo. And so when we load the decoder up with these, we put the 645s on it. So on this particular one, you've got multiple choices of the 645. So since these wouldn't sound like a 567 or a 710, there's no reason to load the decoder with that. So that's one slight caveat to, pun intended, all the bells and whistles. But you do get all of the whistles, all of the bells, and Athearn has actually selected a couple of the air horns to be taken out. So for example, you can't pick the Auga air horn like you could on that one. But otherwise, it's got, I think they're equipped with 40 or 42 air horns.
Yeah.
So they've only taken out a couple that are completely irrelevant.
Maybe, I think, the O Canada one.
Yeah, I think they took out the O Canada and the Auga air horn. Maybe the car air horn, and I don't remember. That's what I don't remember. I don't have it right here in front of me. But otherwise, all the sounds are there. So you still get the air dryer or the poppet valve. You still get the different compressors to choose from. You still get the different coupler sounds to choose from. All of that's still preloaded in the decoder. So it is still gives you all of those different sound effects and all the ambient ones, including things such as turning the wrenches, the pneumatic lubricators, the AC unit or anything like that. Even down to, but not limited to, Fireman Ed's toilet flush. That's right, folks. You can actually have Fireman Ed, and you can determine the probability of how often Fireman Ed has to adjust to use the toilet. So now, you don't actually hear him using the toilet. You actually hear him flushing the toilet.
Yeah, maybe he had Taco Bell.
Yeah, there you go. Sounds like he needs a little more roughage in his diet, a little bit more salad. But anyway, so those are the sounds that you're going to get in the decoder. So you get all of that. Now, the other difference that's major between, say, an aftermarket versus a factory install is the folks at the Athearn Research and Development actually will go through and set up the decoder to match the model that they've installed it into. So, for example, this particular locomotive doesn't have dynamic braking. And so there's no reason to have the dynamic brake volume turned up and have it as a feature. But if I use the dynamic brakes, like we've talked about in some of our videos in the past, equipped, paired up or coupled up with another locomotive, these essentially would become basically traveling boxcars. So the prime mover drops to idle and there's no sound of the dynamic brake. So they've actually set up some of those features into these decoders for you ahead of time so that way you don't have to spend as much time setting it up as, say, you did on your MP36. And so they're dialed it out and selecting the sounds to match that particular decoder or that particular model, so that way you can have a great experience out of the box.
Yeah, pretty much ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the only thing you might want to change is some function mapping.
Right, and that's where these are going to come into play because, like I said, with the number boards and the class lights and things like that, they have it set up in a specific way that doesn't necessarily match what I would personally do.
Yep.
But that doesn't mean that it's bad. It just means it's different. Yep. And so you can have that flexibility to change it.
Yeah, I know I got an Athearn model recently and I wanted to configure the function mapping a little bit for those lights. It was their new Jeep 38-2s. They added the number boards and the class lights on some of them to those as well.
Right.
And I always want my I want my ditch lights on button 5 and I want my number boards on button 6. So went in, figured that out, got that all working how I want it to. So
yeah, exactly.
But that's and I changed the couplers, but that's all I changed on that engine.
Yeah. And that one's a good run, and you have to bring that out one time for one of these podcasts as well.
Maybe next podcast.
You hear that, folks? Next podcast, he's going to have his GP38 that he wants to show you off. But some of the other things, like, for example, adding the echo or the reverb or playing with the equalizer, all that's still in both of the decoders, whether it's a Tsunami2 factory installed or a Tsunami2 custom you installed. All those features are still there, so you do have all of that, and you can tweak these decoders to your heart's content. Now, the last thing I'll mention is because they do have specific defaults for the model, if you go and make changes and you do a CV reset, it's going to go back to the way it was from our factory, which is Athearn's defaults.
Yeah, versus the aftermarket part.
Correct, versus the aftermarket. And so that's one of the things to keep in mind. So if you're trying to match, like, say, your aftermarket configuration, just know that if you do a reset, it's not going to go back to the aftermarket defaults. It's going to go back to the SoundTraxx or the Athearn defaults, or whoever, Bachmann or PBL or whoever else is using it, with some others coming soon, which I'm really excited about. So stay tuned for that. But anyway, so yeah, that's kind of the big differences. Otherwise, it's a full-featured Tsunami2 decoder, and so whatever you need in there, it's already in there. Like the Prego spaghetti sauce, it's in there. Oh, I'm sorry, that commercial predates you.
Yeah.
Man, you gotta get older because you miss out on half my jokes. But anyway, so that's that. We're real excited about that. I'm hoping to get these worked on here very soon. But it's funny. I was going through the other day and I was looking at my layout because I put all my GP38s on the layout. I've got my GP30, my Rio Grande Jeep 30 on there just to throw a representative of it. And then I have my other Jeep 15s, my other MP15s, the SW1200s. I found out I had 15 locomotives on the layout.
Yeah.
I don't need 15 locomotives on the layout.
You'd probably need about 2 or 3, really. Unless you're doing consists.
I would say now with the expanded layout space, I've been putting 2 locomotives together. So every train gets 2 locomotives. But and I've got my GP12 and my GP7s that are on there as well. So you start adding all that up, it's like, I don't need 5 GP30s on the layout. So I took them off, put them in a box for now, but I can switch it out. So one of the things I was doing on an ops session, this was actually a couple of years ago, and I haven't done it since just because I haven't actually run trains much. I've been working on the layout more than anything. But one of the fun things I did was I took a couple locomotives and brought in the train from staging that had a replacement switcher.
Yeah.
And so I brought the switcher in, dropped it off, picked up the other switcher, took my cars that were headed back to staging, put it in the train, and then headed out with it. So I was able to do that. So
some more operation.
Just some more operation enjoyment. So let's say there was something wrong with that switcher that the local shop, the small little engine facility, couldn't fix. So they took it to St. Louis or Kansas City to get it worked on.
Yeah.
So that's a fun little way to add in and switch out locomotives too, so that way you can get a variety. But now I'm going to have basically, where am I at? Five fully functioned with these 2 added. 5 fully functioned Jeep 15s on the layout, and then the 2 MP15s, the Jeep 12, the Jeep 7, and then the SW1200s.
Yeah.
That should be more than enough.
That's quite the fleet.
That is quite the fleet for my small layout. And if you guys want to see the layout, now I have been working on it, so it's changed since then, but if you want to go back to one of the podcasts that was started the 1st of 2025, you'll be able to see the layout tour, and maybe we'll have to do another one now that I've been working on it so much.
Or maybe we do like operations video or something.
Yeah, that's what we could do. Why don't we do that? Let's schedule that in. We'll try to do an ops video where you can come in and kind of see what we're doing. We'll talk about kind of narration, what we're doing, what we're operating, and where we're going. So that way, if you guys are listening to this on audio, you can hear some of that of what we're doing instead of having to see it, but we'll also run. So good, I like that. Let's make a note of that. Don't know when that's going to happen yet, because I've got several trips coming up here, back to back to back, and so forth. So we'll try to make it happen.
Crazy busy, like we said.
It is. Man, time flies.
Yeah.
It's been just about 30 minutes. I think we're just shy of it, but we're right at about the 30-minute mark, and I want to try to keep these short so they're entertaining and not going to occupy a huge chunk of the day.
Yeah.
So I think we've covered everything we would want to cover. So once I get these back home and get them to the shop, I'll put some blue namis in them, do some light weathering on it, and add my truck lights or ground lights, and we'll bring them back out.
Yeah. Sounds good.
So anyway, any last thoughts, closing thoughts? Any thoughts on support, service?
Go ahead, keep calling, keep emailing. We're here for you guys.
Yeah.
I know last week we did a video about our support, and so we're not going anywhere.
Yeah. We will keep our phone lines open and live, so you can call us and talk to us at any point in time. So if you have any questions, to call Graham, and if he's occupied, you can talk to me, and we'll be happy to help answer anything we can for you guys. So with that, I think we'll close this out. This has been, I think we're on our 19th episode. I don't remember how, because we changed it up. We're changing it now. We're doing season 2, episode 4 or 5 or somewhere around there. I forget. I should write that down. I got my Ron Burgundy notes over here off to the side, so I'd make sure we stay on topic.
That would be too easy.
It'd be too easy. So we'll see. But anyway, so this is the 19th episode. So I'll change up for next time. We'll change up how we're documenting it. But like I said, season 2 episodes. So with that, this has been Train Talk from Milepost 141. This is the SoundTraxx Soundbites podcast. Hope you guys enjoyed. And I guess we'll see you next time. Thanks, everybody.